A few years ago, when I was living in Scotland, I heard something that sparked my imagination. It was Christmas Day 2018, and I was sitting with a friend watching the Queen's Christmas Day speech. In this speech, Queen Elizabeth II talked particularly about faith and how it was part of her life. Listen to a couple of her comments.
Some cultures believe a long life brings wisdom. I'd like to think so. Perhaps part of that wisdom is to recognize some of life's baffling paradoxes, such as the way human beings have a huge propensity for good, and yet a capacity for evil. Even the power of faith, which frequently inspires great generosity and self-sacrifice, can fall victim to tribalism. But through the many changes I have seen over the years, faith, family, and friendship have been not only a constant for me, but a source of personal comfort and reassurance. The Christmas story retains its appeal, since it doesn't provide theoretical explanations for the puzzles of life. Instead, it's about the birth of a child and the hope that birth 2,000 years ago brought to the world. Only a few people acknowledged Jesus when he was born. Now, billions follow him. I believe his message of peace on earth and goodwill to all is never out of date. It can be heeded by everyone. It's needed as much as ever.
Faith and belief are integral to life, and at Christmas, they come to the forefront for many people. What are we doing at Christmas time? Why do we celebrate? What is faith? I think answering this last question will actually help us understand the other questions as well as what the Queen was talking about. So how do we define faith? A dictionary might tell us that faith is complete trust or confidence in someone or something. And the Bible gives us a similar definition. In Hebrews 11 verse 1, we read, "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." Faith does require trust and confidence, especially when not all the details are known or understood. Faith means trusting in something we can't see or fully comprehend. That's the really hard part about faith, but yet we all have faith. Whether it's trusting in scientific claims or patterns for government, there's plenty of things that we believe without having all the details or data in front of us. Yet, from what we know, we can make choices about what we hope is true and right. For the Christian, confidence and trust is placed in God. Having faith in God is more than a blind trust, though. Faith includes growing in our understanding, growing in what we know about God, who He is, what He's told us about Himself, and why we can trust Him. We can't understand everything, though, because God is just too big, but we can see God at work and learn enough about Him for faith to develop. Throughout the history of the world, God has invited men and women to trust in Him, to have faith in His power and love. And then He demonstrates His power and love by making and keeping promises. And when people live by faith, trusting that God will keep His promises, God rejoices and blesses them. That's what Hebrews 11 verse 2 tells us. It tells us when it says, "This is what the ancients were commended for, this faith." In these first two verses of Hebrews 11, we see that faith is complete and utter confidence in God, and that God sees and honors faith. It isn't great deeds or valiant efforts that please God, but rather trusting that God will keep His promises. During the COVID shutdowns, I think we've been given a space to really wrestle with this. When we can't do anything, is God still at work? I know I've been forced to stop and see that life is outside of my control. We see that there is a problem, such as this virus, and all we can do is come to God and ask why. What do I see God promising to do? How can I trust and hope in Him? Faith is trusting that God is present and will do the work needed to give us life and joy, meaning and purpose. It sounds easy enough, right? But what does living out faith actually look like? Does that mean we take God at His word, and especially when there seems to be no evidence or proof that what He says will happen? What about when what He says seems impossible? How can we still have faith? Well, the short answer is that we see it fulfilled in Jesus. Jesus did the impossible for us and invites us to come and know God and be with God. The long answer is what the next 24 videos are about, as we walk through Hebrews 11 and see just how impossible the call to faith is and may seem, and yet God's miraculous ability to do the impossible and to give us faith. And so as we start this Advent season, take time to talk with God about what makes faith hard for you. Maybe you don't know the promises of God, or His promises seem unrealistic. Maybe you see God's character in the Bible and parts of it seem strange or dangerous. Take time to talk to God about these things and listen for His answer. He does promise to be with us and to hear us when we pray. So let's start by talking with Him.